Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a beautiful and peaceful day. Today, we're going to share a truly heartwarming moment from Jack and Tu Tien's family, the full month celebration of their adorable twins, Long An and Phuong Nhi. It's a day filled with laughter, love, and blessings as they give thanks for their children and officially choose the names that will stay with them for life. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next episodes. And please, tell us where you're watching from and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support means the world to us. Golden sunlight spilled gently through the window, painting the kitchen in a soft golden hue. The sweet aroma of mung bean pudding drifted through the air, mixing with the faint sound of laughter. Mrs. Ly stood by the stove, stirring the pot slowly with the ease of someone who had done it 1,000 times before. "Just a pinch of salt," she said with a smile. "It makes the sweetness deeper, like raising children. Too much sweetness spoils them, too much salt hardens them. Balance is everything." Tu Tien laughed softly as she helped wash a few bowls. "I'll try not to forget, Mom, though I think I'm still learning what balance means." Before she could say more, Jack walked in holding his camera, his face bright with amusement. "My two favorite chefs. Hold that pose. The twins will love seeing this one day." Mrs. Ly chuckled, her eyes twinkling. "Make sure you film her hard work, not just her pretty smile." Tu Tien playfully wagged her finger. "And don't you dare add that cheesy background music again." Jack raised an eyebrow, grinning. "Too late. I already picked the soundtrack. Happy family mix." That sent all three of them into laughter. The kitchen filled with warmth, not just from the stove, but from the love that seemed to linger in the air. By noon, the house was alive with the scent of incense and freshly cooked rice. Red ribbons fluttered near the altar, and a bright handmade banner hung proudly across the wall. Happy one-month celebration for Long An and Phuong Nhi. Jack was carefully tying the last knot while humming a cheerful tune. "There," he said, stepping back to admire his work. "Perfect. Not bad for a first-time decorator, huh?" Tu Tien smiled, holding the twins in her arms. "It feels like our wedding day all over again. My heart's racing, and I don't even know why." Mrs. Ly wiped her hands on her apron and walked over. "That's because this is another beginning, my dear. Today we give thanks to heaven and earth and name the children who'll carry your love forward." Jack sat beside her, gazing tenderly at the babies. "Our son shall be Long An, the peaceful dragon, and our daughter, Phuong Nhi, the little phoenix, bright and full of light." Tu Tien's eyes softened, tears glimmering like morning dew. "They're perfect." Mrs. Ly nodded proudly. "Names chosen from love bring luck that lasts a lifetime." As they prepared offerings in the courtyard, the familiar sound of footsteps came from the gate. "Oh my, how beautiful everything looks," called their neighbor, Mrs. Han, her voice as lively as ever. She carried a small basket of fruit, smiling as she peered at the twins. "Twins, how lucky you are. But goodness, it must be exhausting. Be careful. Sleepless nights can cause arguments, you know." Tu Tien forced a polite smile. "We'll manage, thank you." "Oh, I'm sure you will," said the neighbor cheerfully. "You always look so calm, dear. But even calm rivers can overflow." She laughed as she left, and the cheerful tone slowly faded into the afternoon air. Later, when the sun began to sink and the twins were finally asleep, Tu Tien sat quietly near their crib. Her fingers traced the soft edges of the baby blanket as her thoughts wandered. Mrs. Han's words echoed faintly in her mind. Sleepless nights can cause arguments. A faint worry touched her heart. She didn't want anything to disturb the peace they had built. Jack noticed her quietness and came up behind her, resting a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You've been quiet for a while. What's wrong?" She hesitated. "Nothing serious. I just sometimes feel like I won't be enough. The babies, the house, your work, everything feels so big, and I'm just one person." Jack leaned down and kissed her hair softly. "You're not doing this alone. We're a team, remember? And no one gets to make you tired, not even life itself." She turned toward him, eyes glistening. "I just want to hold on to this happiness forever." He smiled, his voice low and warm. "Then we will, because this right here, you, me, our babies, this is all I'll ever need." The sound of soft baby breaths filled the room. The house felt like it was wrapped in calm. By evening, laughter returned as friends and neighbors arrived with gifts and congratulations. The living room buzzed with cheerful chatter, red paper decorations gleaming under the lights. Someone teased Jack about his nervousness. Another admired how radiant Tu Tien looked. Jack stood proudly, holding a glass of tea high. "Today isn't just for our twins," he said, smiling at everyone. "It's for family, for love, and for every challenge we face together. Here's to the future we'll build, one laugh, one sleepless night at a time." Cheers followed, and the air filled with joy. In one corner, Mrs. Ly gently rocked baby Phuong Nhi in her arms. "Little Phoenix," she whispered, "may you grow kind and strong like your mother." She turned to the other crib, where Long An slept peacefully. "And you, my dragon boy, may you protect your sister as your father protects this home." Tu Tien felt her heart swell with warmth. Looking around the room, her husband's proud grin, her mother-in-law's tender smile, the twins sleeping soundly, she realized there was nothing more she could ask for. After the guests left, the house grew quiet again. The moon rose softly over the rooftops, casting a silver glow across the floor. The faint scent of incense lingered near the altar. Tu Tien sat by the cradle, her face glowing in the moonlight. "Thank you, Jack," she whispered, her voice trembling, "for everything." He knelt beside her and brushed a strand of hair away from her cheek. "No, love. Thank you for turning this house into a home." From the doorway, Mrs. Ly watched with a smile that came from the deepest part of her heart. "3 generations under one roof," she said quietly. "That's true happiness." Tu Tien turned to her, smiling through tears. "You've always said happiness is built from small things, Mom. I think I understand now." Mrs. Ly nodded. Small things, a shared meal, a gentle word, a good laugh, they hold a family together more than anything else. Jack reached for Tu Tien's hand and squeezed it gently. "Then let's keep collecting small things forever." Tu Tien leaned her head on his shoulder. "Promise?" "Promise." For a while, no one spoke. Only the soft sound of the twins' breathing filled the room. The world outside was quiet, as if it too didn't want to disturb the peace inside. A faint breeze drifted through the window, making the curtains sway gently. The altar candle flickered, casting soft light over the framed photo of their smiling faces. The family of the happy home. And there, surrounded by warmth, love, and quiet joy, they sat together. 3 generations, one family, one shared heartbeat, knowing that this moment, like the sweetness of the pudding earlier that day, would stay with them for the rest of their lives. The morning after the celebration was calm and tender. Soft light filtered through the curtains, and the faint cooing of the twins drifted across the living room. The garlands and ribbons from last night still hung on the walls, a little crooked now, but they made the house feel alive, like laughter that hadn't yet faded. Tu Tien sat in her rocking chair, humming quietly while she cradled baby Phuong Nhi in her arms. Her eyes were tired, but full of contentment. Across the room, Mrs. Ly moved about the kitchen, her movements unhurried and graceful, as if this morning were another prayer of gratitude. Jack stumbled out of the bedroom, his hair messy and eyes half open. "Good morning. Or maybe it's still night," he muttered, rubbing his face. "Did anyone actually sleep, or did I dream we were raising baby dragons?" Tu Tien giggled softly. "You did wake up 5 times, so maybe it was a dream, or a nightmare." Mrs. Ly chuckled as she placed a pot of porridge on the table. Jack looked like a lost soldier last night. 2 crying babies, and he froze like he'd seen a ghost. "Excuse me," Jack said, pretending to look offended. "I was strategizing. You don't just rush into a battlefield without a plan." Tu Tien laughed so hard she nearly woke the baby. "And what was your plan, dear strategist?" "To survive until sunrise," he said dramatically. That sent both women into laughter. The exhaustion in their eyes turned to joy again. Even sleepless nights felt light when shared with love. The smell of porridge filled the room as breakfast began. Tu Tien carefully fed Long An, who kept turning his face away. "Oh no, not again," she sighed, trying to coax him. "Come on, my little dragon, open your mouth for mommy." Jack sat across from her, sipping tea and pretending to look wise. "He clearly takes after me. Great taste, refuses plain porridge." Tu Tien gave him a playful glare. "You once said instant noodles were a masterpiece of fine dining." Mrs. Ly laughed until her shoulders shook. "My goodness, you two argue like newlyweds. Maybe I should record this and show the twins one day." Jack grinned. "Good idea. I'll call it The Great Breakfast Battle." Tu Tien shook her head, smiling. "As long as it ends with me winning." The morning slipped away in laughter, and by noon, both babies were sleeping peacefully. Tu Tien stepped outside for a breath of fresh air. The sun was warm, the garden alive with the soft hum of bees. She watched the wind move through the flowers, the ones she had planted after the storms had passed. From across the fence, their neighbor called out, "Ah, Tu Tien, you look exhausted, dear. Twins will do that to you. But you're glowing too. That's what love does, isn't it?" Tu Tien smiled politely. "Yes, it's a little tiring, but they're worth it." The neighbor leaned closer with a grin. "You're lucky to have Jack helping. Most men disappear the moment babies start crying." Her tone was teasing, but the words lingered in the air longer than they should have. Tu Tien forced a small laugh, waved goodbye, and went back inside. Jack was on the floor, surrounded by colored paper and string. "Look," he said proudly when she appeared. "I'm making a mobile for the twins. Each star represents a promise. One for every night I'll wake up when they cry." Tu Tien leaned against the doorframe, smiling at the sight of him cross-legged on the floor, paper scattered everywhere. "That's a lot of stars, Jack." He glanced up at her. "Then it's a lot of love." Something in his voice softened her. She knelt down beside him, helping him fold a small paper star. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I worry too much sometimes." People keep saying things, that happiness doesn't last, that love changes after children. I try not to listen, but sometimes it slips in. Jack paused, meeting her eyes. Hey, let them say what they want. They don't know us. We've survived storms together, literally. We've built everything we have from scratch. Happiness isn't fragile unless we let it be. She looked at him for a long moment, her heart swelling with affection. How do you always know what to say? He smiled gently. Because I've made it my job to keep you smiling. At that moment, Mrs. Loy appeared with a basket of freshly washed baby clothes. "Oh, you two," she said, shaking her head affectionately. "Still finding time for sweet talk while I'm out here doing laundry." Jack grinned. "Just practicing my role as the perfect husband, Mom." "Then practice folding these clothes," she teased, tossing him a small towel. Tu Tien burst out laughing. "See? Even your mom knows the truth. You're still in training." Mrs. Loy winked at her. "He'll learn. Good men always do, if they have a good woman to guide them." The rest of the day passed quietly. Little moments stitched together into a beautiful rhythm. The sound of the twins' tiny hiccups, the warmth of the afternoon sun, the laughter echoing between rooms. That evening, the family gathered on the sofa. The twins lay asleep between them, their chests rising and falling like tiny waves. Jack strummed his old guitar softly, playing the tune he once wrote for Tu Tien during the storm. The melody was gentle, full of memories. Tu Tien rested her head on his shoulder. "You know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I used to think love was something grand. Flowers, surprises, fancy words. But now I think it's this. Just us. The babies breathing. The house quiet. Your music." Jack smiled, his fingers still moving across the strings. "Love grows up, doesn't it? It stops shouting and starts whispering." Mrs. Loy nodded from her chair nearby. "And if you water that whisper every day with kindness, it will never fade." Tu Tien looked at her with deep gratitude. "Mom, thank you for teaching me what love really means." "My dear," said Mrs. Loy softly, "love isn't something you teach, it's something you live. You're already doing it." The room fell quiet again. The lullaby drifted through the air, wrapping around them like a blanket. Outside, the crickets began to sing, and the moonlight spilled gently across the floor. Jack looked around, his wife, his mother, his children, and felt a peace he had never known before. "This is it," he murmured. "This is what I dreamed of." Tu Tien smiled and whispered, "Promise me something. No matter how noisy life gets, no matter how tired we become, we'll always find time to laugh." Jack nodded. "Deal. But only if you promise to keep making that pudding I love." She laughed softly. "Even when it burns?" "Especially when it burns," he said, "because even burnt pudding smells like home." Their laughter filled the night again, soft, warm, and alive. The world outside was quiet, but inside the happy home, love breathed in every corner. The twins slept peacefully, their parents held each other close, and Mrs. Loy watched them with a heart full of gratitude. For the first time in a long while, everything felt complete, not perfect, but beautifully whole. And in that stillness, between laughter and lullabies, the truth lingered quietly in their hearts. Happiness isn't found in grand moments. It's found in the everyday, in laughter after exhaustion, in forgiveness after doubt, and in the warmth of arms that never let go. That night, as the house finally drifted into silence, love stayed awake, steady and glowing. inside the hearts of the family who called this place home.